This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 908, recorded on Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. 2023 Science Predictions. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on the show, we will fill your head with what was, what is, and what might be. But first, thanks to our amazing Patreon sponsors for their generous support of TWIS. You can become a part of the Patreon community at patreon.com/thisweekinscience.
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see, or so the song claims. Humans, though, through the ages, have attempted it anyway. To open the box, break the seal, and peek into the mysterious unknown of events yet to happen. To know the future without waiting around for it to happen. To take action in the now while living in an inevitable future's past. The future-seeing methods have been many, and much easier than you might think. Simply flipping cards, or noting the position of stars might do it. Tossing small objects to see how they land, be they bones, stones, runes, or coins. You might try staring into a fire, or a freshly made cup of tea, or careful appreciation of the flights of birds, as these can all be read as clearly as the coagulation of melted wax in water. Your own destiny is written in the palm of your hand, inexplicably. And what a future it says you will have. No spoilers. However humans have attempted to see the future in the past, it must have been encouraging for them to peer into our distant present and know that one day there would be This Week in Science coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind I can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
And a good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back to talk about all the science. Well, not all the science. Some of the science. Some of the science.
All the science that we brought.
All the science that we put in our run sheet.
Yeah.
That's right. And today is the day. We delayed it by a week because Justin was not able to join us last week. So how could we have a prediction show without our fearless prognosticator? And so now.
Not necessarily a good prognosticator, but fearless.
Fearless. I choose my words. So today's show, we will be reviewing what we predicted at the beginning of 2022 to see how we did last year with our predictions. And then we will be predicting what we think will be happening in the year to come. And then we've got science. So we're going to be hitting all this stuff. Tight 90. We got this, everybody. We totally do. I have stories today. What stories? I brought about a breathy memory drug, animal research, and a web of discoveries. Justin, what did you bring?
Ever older Native Americans, dino brain connections, and maybe a little bit of AI that can mimic you.
No.
Hey.
Yay.
Yeah, that's what we needed.
Here's my
thing
not
that was
happy
missing.
smile. Okay, Blair, what's in the animal corner?
Well, I have lemur guts and bonobos playing with iPads. And then maybe if there's time, I'll talk about algae band-aids, but I don't know. We'll see.
Algae band-aid.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah,
You have
why not?
piqued my interest. All right. As we jump into the show here, everyone, I would like to remind you that if you have not yet subscribed to our podcast, this is a podcast, right? We're on these streaming things, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Pacific time, streaming live our recording of our podcast. But the podcast itself can be found all places podcasts are found. So look for your Apples, your Googles, your Spotifys, all those places that you like to find your podcasts. And look for This Week in Science. We are TWIS Science on Twitter, on Mastodon, on Instagram, on Twitch. Yes. Otherwise, we're just TWIS. But you can find all sorts of information, plus show notes at twis.org, our website. We hope to see you there. Okay, are we ready to jump in? Time for the science?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Well, first it's time for predictions, right?
Oh, not just predictions. Reviewing our predictions.
Oh.
Because what
the old ones. Wait. I didn't know we were going to go back around and see if the predictions we made before had come true.
Yes. Yes, we must know how well we did, because what good are predictions if you don't actually check up on whether or not they happened? I mean, you could be like Nostradamus and die before most of them come to pass, but I don't know. His predictions this year, I don't know. He predicts that we're going to have a shortage of wheat, and there's going to be lots of drought, and so people are going to turn into cannibals. I'm hoping that one doesn't come true.
Wait, who predicted this?
There is a shortage of eggs and milk in the Bay Area.
Like,
so.
Specifically, he's like, 2023, let me tell you.
2023, I'm going to tell you everybody's going to eat each other. Let's not do that, okay? Can we try not to do that? I don't want that. Okay. Anyway, last year I predicted that the virus causing COVID-19 will mutate further due to further vaccination difficulties, leading people to wonder if they ever really did have a life before the pandemic or if it was just a fever dream. I don't know. It did mutate further. There have been vaccination difficulties. I'm going to give myself a +1 on that one.
Yeah,
However,
I mean, life before COVID does feel very fuzzy now. It's been 3 years.
Yeah. It depends on, I guess, the group of people you associate with. Some people, they're living their lives. They have been the whole time. And others have changed their lives significantly. Otherwise, however, pandemic waves will be less and less concerning as new mRNA booster shots updated based on the mutagenesis will become available before year's end. Bivalent boosters! Da, da, da. However, new news this week suggests that Moderna's bivalent booster isn't really doing as well as its original shots. So, I don't know. Pfizer for the win on that one. Yeah. Our gravitational wave detectors will detect more gravitational waves. They did.
Yeah.
Well, it was reported that they did from the original data. The Large Hadron Collider will once again provide support for the Standard Model, even as other experiments try to escape its clutches. What was one of the stories at the very end of the year out of the LHC? Standard Model
Upheld. Yeah.
All Standard Model all the way.
But now they're saying the James Webb Space Telescope is whoa, it saw something that's going to challenge the Standard Model again.
Will yet to be determined. TBD on that one. Anyway, we will see SpaceX Starship successfully reaching orbit in 2022. It got to the stratosphere, but not orbit, so that was a no. I did not think NASA's SLS would get off the ground. The Artemis mission launched, went around the moon, came back successfully. All things were great. So I was very wrong on that one. This was before the James Webb Space Telescope had actually gotten out to where it was going. And so I said, Webb will continue its trip to L2 and return images before the end of the year that wow and astound the world. I think I got that one.
All right, well, the whole world.
The whole world that saw them. Everyone who saw them.
Everyone who cared. Anyone who cared thought it was amazing.
Yep.
That's
Scientists will continue to become better communicators, finally understanding that people have trust issues, but politicians will continue to use facts any old way they darn please.
Facts? Oh, they're still, you think they're still using
What is
facts?
a fact? Yeah.
That's lowercase f. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, unless social media is regulated, we will continue to see a growing distrust in science. I think that's still kind of there. Yeah, NASA's
Well, actually,
DART.
I think there was some encouraging stuff this year.
Right.
Like stories that came out about how everybody thinks that they're the only one in their social group that believes in climate change, but that it is the vast majority of opinion at this point. So,
unfortunately, late in the game in 2022, some things happened with social media that makes it much easier to mess with science on one particular website. That's a pretty big hit, but...
let's see. Moving on from social media, NASA's DART mission will crash into Dimorphos, the asteroid moonlet of Didymus, and we will rejoice at the successful crashing of a spacecraft. Talk about a high-impact science mission. Oh, I was so punny. But will be saddened as the craft will be gently cradled and enveloped in the soft dust of the moonlet's surface rather than moving the space rock in its orbit.
So I really thought that could happen.
Yeah, but it moved. It
moved it.
It moved it.
Because some of those out there are like just giant gravel pits floating in space still. So they're not all as solid as
on the moon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I watched Armageddon for the first time ever very recently, a few days ago, and the whole time I was like, nah, NASA's DART's got this. I'm good. I just sat back. I was like, don't even need to worry about this anymore. We got it.
Not even an issue. I said, we will continue to be depressed rather than inspired by Justin's good news stories.
What do you mean? They're always just good news. There's nothing depressing. It's finding the silver lining. You're paying attention to the thing that's not the silver lining.
That's right.
Of those stories.
Kiki, reframe.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence will be trained on reality in virtual reality designed by other AIs. I don't know if that exactly happened, but...
I kind of feel like that's how it works already, though. In a way. Yeah.
AIs training other AIs, and this is the way the world works, baby AI. I don't know.
I have an AI story today that we're going to talk about after the prediction show portion that is maybe convenient and maybe frightening.
Frightening.
It's a little both.
Frightening.
Just good news.
Let's just put it together with GPT-4 and that one, and we got a podcast without ever actually having to do a podcast. Anyway, our artificial intelligence will design a synthetic biological life form. That did not happen. However, AI did help in the design of synthetic DNA, antibiotics, all sorts of proteins,
and nerve gas.
And nerve gas, right?
And discovered a number of nerve gas agents that we haven't even discovered yet.
My final two, TWIS will welcome a new member to the family.
Aww.
Which Justin
that happened.
Did. That happened.
Yeah, little Felix.
Felix, it's going well.
Mm-hmm.
Little Bambino, grown up. And TWIS will continue to bring science, which we have. Yeah. Woohoo! I think I did all right there. Woo! I didn't disappear. We didn't disappear. No. All right. Who is up next? Justin, how'd you do?
Oh, is it me? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now that we're done with the fearful predictions. Wait. These are my new predictions. Hang on. Where's my old ones? Is this it? Okay,
I think those are your old ones. Are you in your old ones?
Yeah, no, I found it. So 2021, I was saying, was a mental roller coaster of a pandemic-related emotions. But now that the worst is over, is a phrase people will slowly stop saying in 2022. Wait, that's yeah. So I think that one's kind of a hit.
People are definitely still saying that.
I don't think they are. I think
really,
they're saying
I hear
nothing.
it almost every day at work.
Okay, I keep hearing
the worst is over. We can.
Yes, exactly.
Great.
I keep hearing that not so much the worst is over as with the COVID, just like people are just not talking about it at all. Like that seems to be more the anyway. So I'll call that one a miss then, sure. Despite all of the looming threats in 2022, everything is going to be just fine. I think that turned out to be correct. Although I did point out in making that prediction that if I had predicted everyone was going to die, then there'd be nobody there to hear my prediction that I was right. So if I predict everybody's fine, even if I'm wrong, nobody would know. So I went with was just playing the odds on that prediction there. I predicted that, 2022, both Webster's and Oxford dictionaries will change the definition of fine to include a state where things are actually terrible beyond belief, but ranking too far down the list of anxiety-ridden awful things one got to deal with to do anything about at the moment. Fine. I don't know that. I think that's become. I think people understand the word fine. Doesn't mean things are all right.
No,
I think that's happened. I think we've crossed that threshold because I know that I can't use that word anymore when everything's all right.
And the origin of the word fine doesn't actually mean fine either.
Oh, yeah.
It means pretty, doesn't it?
No.
Rare?
Small. I don't know.
Charged for something that you didn't expect. Oh, there's a fine involved in it?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a boundary, a limit, an end. From Latin. Yes.
Oh, fin. End.
The fin. Okay, so new waves of variants will be met by a robust response of new vaccines. An increased portion of the world's population will be vaccinated, but only because the portion of the population that refuses the jab keeps mysteriously shrinking. What a mystery that would have been. That could be happening. There's no way to tell. 2022 is the year when people stop putting up with willful idiots. Well, there was a midterm election that I think there's some of the willful idiots got denied office, but of course then there's always others that get in when you're talking politically. I think we still are putting up with it. Well, Elon alone, I think, made that prediction not true.
Fair.
Fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
You skipped your LHC one.
Oh, is there an LHC? Okay. LHC will continue running experiments mid-year. While it was upgraded to expand with additional detectors, the increased sensitivity they get will be considered a bit too much information, even by data scientists looking forward to the upgrade.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
There's a lot of info. They're still crunching it. Yeah.
So the problem is,
it's fine.
The problem is when you're collecting this much data, servers can't even handle it to move it. Everything becomes snail paced to the point where the researchers who are involved in collecting this data, their children will be studying this data by the time they get it down from the servers and dismantled and oh gosh. No, but they're getting still the real time data. They can tell when they've got a hit.
That's what we need the AI for.
Yeah, you have the AI do it instead. Mm-hmm. Let's see what is. Oh yeah, so I think this is okay. Here's my first hit. I think this one is a hit. The researchers will accidentally create tardigrades that are the size of small pigs, and will be sent to Brazil to reforest the Amazon in order to provide. And they start reforesting the Amazon in order to provide enough feeding grounds for the new meat staple that everybody's eating, which is tardigrade.
I don't remember that, Justin.
Well, so you haven't been paying
When
attention
was that story?
You have not been paying attention to the news coming out of Brazil lately.
Guess not.
Have you not heard the absolute chaos going on? Yeah, they're like, oh, it's a political thing. It's giant tardigrades. They just don't want anybody to know.
They're not. Right. Shh, nobody talk about the giant tardigrades.
Yeah. Let's see. When media reports that large comet has been spotted hurtling towards the Earth with near certainty of direct impact, most people write it off thinking they've already seen that show on Netflix. So that kind of happened.
Armageddon, Blair did.
There have been a few. There have been a few like, oh, there was like 2 within a month that were coming by, and people were like, it's kind of like that movie.
Don't look up.
Like every news report was like, "Hey, remember that movie? That was sort of like that." Oh yeah. I'll call that one a hit. Why not?
Yeah, I think that's a hit. I mean, when life is imitating art, is imitating life, you've got a feedback cycle that's just this is no good for everyone.
Guy named Dave will discover that his cat has been not only secretly accessing his computer, but reporting on his daily activities to other cats in the neighborhood, who have in turn shared pictures of Dave with still more cats. By the end of 2022, cats all over the world are sharing human memes of Dave, who they refer to as the grumpy ape.
Was it last year that was like the NFT, the ape NFT? Was that this last year?
I think it was. I think that's a hit.
You're being very generous with your predictions, Justin.
Well,
I don't have a
you
cat.
have to be. Yeah.
But I figured they're the ones that were doing that NFT stuff.
Right. Your cat's
I think that's
totally
pretty
in
good.
charge.
Pretty good. Oh, here's this one's a hit. This one's a hit. With the non-binding commitments of COP26 no longer remembered, delegates of various glitterati from around the world will look forward to making performative statements on climate during the COP27 meeting in November. That definitely happened. That definitely happened. That one's it.
That's a big
And
hit.
year 2022 is the year we discovered that we really, really should have listened to Justin way back when and just taken a few months off of everything. Well, it would have saved lives, like, a million lives or something. But other than that, I think the economies around the world are doing just fine.
Oh, yeah. We'll just sit back and smile on that comment. Yeah, yep. Yeah, Justin's fishing right there. Okay. Well, Blair.
Yes.
It's your turn. What happened? What did you predict? How'd you
Mine
do?
were much less grandiose, but very unsuccessful overall. So first I predicted that humans will create a new, stronger material modeled after spider silk, but it still won't be better than the real thing. This did happen.
Yeah.
A few different ways. My favorite one was creating nerves on spider silk to be put into human bodies. Loved that. Next, I predicted, as I do every year, spoilers, that tardigrades will do something weird, and they did.
They did.
They did a lot of weird things. They found a new species. They found new abilities. Lots of cool things with tardigrades last year.
Like the one that we didn't even get to was they can survive passing through the gut and digestive system of a snail.
Yes.
Yeah.
They can be eaten by a snail and survive coming out the other side.
And apparently they're very large, living in Brazil as a food species now. So, yeah.
If you haven't heard the reports coming out of Brazil, people. Also, just a fair warning, they prefer to eat vegetarians. They're now devouring people, and that's why there's all that chaos, and there's a
vegetarian
military out there.
Yeah. Next, I predicted that the world will declare the end of the pandemic just in time for a new one. Not exactly, but we have seen RSV off the charts, getting adults, entire classrooms going home. So, I mean, in a way, they were calling it a triple-demic at one point a couple months ago. So, kinda. Yeah. Nothing as bad as COVID, but definitely, it's been wild. I predicted that a new nightmare-inducing deep-sea fish will be discovered. I didn't see one. I didn't see that happen. I'm very bummed about it.
I feel like that was a steady prediction because I feel like they find something like that every year.
Well, I did some rooting around and I found some viral videos, but there are always things we already know about. People are just like, I found an alien when I was fishing. It's like, no, actually, this is something we know that exists.
There were, not living now, but there was archaeological evidence, marine archaeology on some ancient, giant, scary eating fish creature things this year. So I can count. I would call that a hit.
Evidence. All right. Yeah. All right. In human origins, a new out of Antarctica theory will surface. That was just silly. Obviously not.
You know what? We gotta wait. Don't jump ahead of that one too quick. You gotta wait for the ice to thaw.
Yeah,
right.
Keep predicting. So do what Justin does and keep
that one
predicting
alive.
it every year. Just hold it in your pocket.
The ice cap is gone.
I'll wait 5 years and I'll do it again. There's no more ice melt. Perfect. Okay. Webb telescope will break in some way. Sorry.
It did.
It did, but I think it did in 2021, right?
No, just this last year. No, when it opened up and then it got hit by something, and they had to adjust because it had a little ding in one of the solar panels.
Well, I would call it a partial hit because I feel like it didn't break. It just
still works.
It faltered, right? So I thought it was gonna fully just nope.
Oh gosh, that would be terrible.
So very happy that did not happen.
Yeah.
A billionaire millionaire will have their ashes scattered in space. I'm going to say soon.
Did that happen? I don't know. Maybe I've already imagined it in my brain as actually happening, but okay.
When you say billionaire millionaire.
No. Billionaire or millionaire.
Oh, millionaire probably happens all the time.
But, there's definitely some people on the list for sure. Crows will reveal that they have understood everything we've said this whole time, and they will not forget. Not yet. I'm waiting. This one I need help with. Mammoth cloning will move to the next stage, attempting to make viable blastocysts. It won't work yet, so I don't think we got there, but we definitely made progress on the mammoth front. I just can't remember exactly where we left off this year. I tried to figure it out, but I know progress.
There was a lot of. I think there was a lot of this new technique could be used in
exactly.
This could accelerate the kind of a thing.
Yeah, they're not quite there.
Yeah.
Next, I predicted that Baby Yoda will return to The Mandalorian as Teen Yoda, and he'll be a rude dude. Now, The Mandalorian did get postponed several times, and it is coming out in a couple months, but he did show up on Boba Fett in 2022, and he was very rude to Luke, so I'm counting this one.
Oh, no.
Awesome.
And last, I predicted that TWIS would return to the stage at a live show. I was being very ambitious with the stage of the pandemic, so that did not occur.
It did not.
No.
But we kept doing the show.
Yes, we did. And we kept vaguely talking about it and going, no, not yet.
Not time yet. It's not time yet.
Not yet.
Someday.
Well, I think Kiki definitely, won the overall correct prediction.
She always does.
Yeah, and I think Blair, you might have come in second there. And I'm not saying they are reporting that there are pig-sized tardigrades eating people in Brazil, but the media reports aren't saying that it's not that. So be careful out there, people. But I think you guys were both much better predictors than I was this last year.
Be careful in what you believe out there, people. Oh my goodness. So these were our predictions from last year. Yes, I think we did fairly well. At least it was entertaining throughout. And if you've just tuned in, this is This Week in Science, and we are going to continue on with our predictions. Please tell your friends about This Week in Science if you enjoy the show. All right. Who is going first? Justin.
I'll go. Yeah. I'll bring it. Okay. So, predictions. 2023, the planet will continue to warm and the seas will continue to rise. And much like COVID, people will continue to ignore that it is happening, except for a handful of island nations that you can only find on maps made before 2024.
I had sad. Okay.
Yeah. Despite all evidence to the contrary, it will be discovered that smoking is actually good for you, creating a major boon for that one company that still makes ashtrays. Until it is later discovered that ashtrays do cause cancer. It was them all along, turned out. It wasn't the smoking, it was those dang ashtrays that were killing everybody.
Wishful thinking. Okay.
James Webb Telescope will discover life on another planet. The infographic of chemical spectrography indicating biological processes will be underwhelming at first, but a later artist rendition of a winged toad will capture the world's imagination. More space telescopes will launch this year, discovering hundreds of interesting targets for the James Webb to get better pictures of. So I think there's like 3 that are supposed to go up this year, but I don't know that any of them are as good as James Webb Space Telescope.
No, they're not. But they have specific functions, so.
Yeah. 2023 will be the year that fundamental mechanics behind gravity is finally figured out, untangling space from time, challenging the expansion rate of the universe, upending large portions of the standard model, but only on a quantum computer simulation. However, it will still be widely reported. Artificial intelligence will be discovered to already be far superior to most people when it comes to making good dinner table conversation. And actually, this prediction comes at the same time I'm doing this story now, because there's a story that's almost on that. We're going to get that one right out of the gate. New age-reversing tissue regeneration therapy will be developed that all but eliminates death from natural causes. Researchers immediately see that the ramifications to the social, economic, environmental stability and the consequences such a therapy would have on the world and decide to keep it a secret. But a few self-help nutritionists find out about it and are willing to tell you during late-night infomercials or on their podcasts. Conveniently, it can create a powdered milkshake that reproduces the scientific results of the therapy.
Blair's going to sell it.
Yeah. Wandering off the scientific range a little bit, I think there might be a regime change year for Russia. I think Elon Musk is going to figure out the best and highest use of the Twitter by announcing a new reality show where participants are given small businesses to run into the ground. Whoever manages to wreck their small business in the most epic way possible will become Twitter's CEO the following year. And, I have a football prediction again. This is going to be kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys, this is not a science story, but it's one of my favorite stories of the year. The San Francisco 49ers have a quarterback. If you don't listen to the football stuff, this will be news. Who was picked last in the draft the previous year. He's a rookie. He's picked last. Imagine you're on the playground and there's 10 kids there and they're picking sides for the teams and you're the last one. It's you and the kid across from you is the kid who's taking hits from his asthma inhaler thing before, and they get picked first. He got picked 262nd out of all the people who were available.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant. He comes onto the team. He's supposed to be the 5th guy on the quarterback on the team. They only keep 3. But he manages to move up a couple spots before the season starts, and he's the 3rd guy. And then both the starters get hurt, and he's in charge of this team and wins 10 games in a row, and he's probably heading to the playoffs and probably going to win the Super Bowl. If he wins the Super Bowl, I think this would be like a very great Cinderella story. So I'm going to predict Brock Purdy is going to have a Cinderella season, and then the 49ers will win the Super Bowl this year.
Wow. Okay. That's a bold prediction there.
Yeah.
But I like the story.
Yeah, it would have been if I'd made it, 10 games ago. Now people are like, well, yeah, they're kind of might even be favored. So not as big a prediction now, but great story.
But it's a good story. Exactly. Yeah. All right. We'll see what happens this year with all of these predictions. We've already got the big tardigrades, so we'll see what happens with the social media game show business. Blair, what is going on in your 2023?
Okay, I foresee a new social media platform will gain traction where you can change up the wallpaper and play music on your profile. And you can pick your top friends, maybe 8 of them?
Hold on a second.
Hang on, this sounds familiar.
Is this like MySpace again?
I mean, I don't know. Shh, don't
bring it back.
Shh. Nobody will remember. I also predict that 3D printed meat will get some market trials, and responses will be less than well done.
Ba-dum-bump.
Yeah, thank you. As always, I am going to predict that tardigrades will do something weird.
General, very good. Okay.
Yeah. Fully driverless, self-driving cars will be active and prevalent in some cities and cause problems.
But when you say some cities, we gotta say that's gotta be what, Palo Alto.
Yeah, all right. I can edit this to say the Bay Area if you want.
The Bay Area, yeah.
And maybe Dubai. There's like, where's that line city where they're gonna try to have all automated vehicles? Somewhere in Saudi
that was
Arabia.
LAX. They had a thing of automated.
San Diego
it's a whole
had
thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's not looking good. There was, there's already been a wreck on the Bay Bridge with the driverless. It's anyway.
Is it really?
It's not looking good.
Not
Anyway, I think it's a pretty safe bet. I also predict that there will be the first AI created feature-length film that is released, and there will be too many fingers.
Ew.
I guess.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, ew.
Will cure cancer again and again. So I'm going to say at least twice this year. California will experience a drought despite the storm parade that we are currently enjoying.
Yeah, I think that one is just a given, and people need to understand that. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I have to put.
Wait, are you adding new predictions?
No, I had to edit.
No, like you were typing.
I had to edit it because we amended the other one before I forgot. Okay, we will learn something new about snot this year.
Something
excited.
new about snot.
Yeah.
This is okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Frogs will once again dominate the animal corner.
Yep, believe it.
Frogs.
Yep.
And I am once again going to project my positivity into the world and predict that TWIS will do a live show in 2023.
All right, that's something that we need
Isn't
to
this a
work
live
on
show?
In front of people.
With a live audience in person.
I think we have some live audience already.
You know what I mean. Stop.
You mean an in-person live thing?
Yeah, you know.
Okay.
You got me.
I got you. Yeah, okay. We got these predictions. I have some 2023 predictions as well. Hopping off of that drought that you were talking about in California, Blair, I predict that yes, climate change will continue to worsen with continued drought and fires around the world brought on by shifting weather patterns and higher land and ocean temperatures. You think it's hot? It's gonna get hotter. That's what I think. However, we will see continued success in the development of sustainable energy sources like solar, wind, and geothermal. I think we're going to see lots of good stuff going on there. So positivity and solutions are going to be happening. And I think that's something to focus on. New battery technology will begin to improve electric vehicles as a choice for consumers. So never mind the economy and what's going on with interest rates and all that kind of stuff. The technology is actually going to start getting better. So that's a prediction of mine. Webb is going to discover an atmosphere conducive to life on an exoplanet.
Yeah, I think this is also, we have a joint prediction then.
Yeah.
You're going to say conducive to, I'm going to say they actually find biosignatures, but
I'm hedging that bet.
But the problem is it's going to be an infographic for most of the world.
Oh,
right?
Yes. Because
we need the artist rendition of the flying toad, which is going to come straight out of Blair's Animal Corner.
Absolutely. So Blair will report on the flying toad. We'll talk about it.
So then I have to clarify Blair's Earth Animal Corner versus extraterrestrial Animal Corner.
Yeah, if we were going to discover life on their planet, I didn't think of that. Your segment of the show is going to skyrocket.
Blair's Galactic Animal Corner. I think that SpaceX's Starship this year will successfully launch into orbit, and I also have good hopes for Starliner. So Boeing's problem vehicle. Yes, Starship and Starliner, both going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Samples from asteroid Bennu will return to Earth and bring visitors from space along for the ride. Dun, dun, dun! The first part, probably more than the second part, but, you know.
They might just be things that we sent up there to begin with.
Could Could be. Artificial intelligence will be the bane of teachers and librarians, but scientists will use it successfully to identify many new drug targets, design proteins, enhance efficiency, and much more. Do you like that very general ending on the end of that prediction? Scientists will enjoy AI. This is what I say. Mm-hmm. AI will enable us to speak with another of Earth's animal species. Maybe
That's
it will be
a great prediction.
Maybe it'll be the crows, Blair.
I really like
I was just a year ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I mean, really, if you think about all of the pattern recognition that AI is doing and all the stuff that it's enabling us to consider, natural language models and all of the machine learning that's happening, why not animal language? Dolphins, crows.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, if we discovered life on another planet, one of the first things we would try to do is communicate with it. We have life all around us on this planet, and we spend no time attempting to communicate with it.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe you don't. I do.
Blair sits outside, or actually sits in her living room going, "Speak, Sadie, speak."
I mean, we have full-on conversations. I don't know about you guys, but it's all good. The AI will help.
It'll help. It will. Hey, Siri, help me talk to my cat. No, I can do it fine without you. With the implosion of Twitter as a reputable platform, scientists and science communicators will continue to spread to new refugia for discussing science. But connecting with the public will become more difficult, influencing the continued growth of distrust in science in the public sphere. So, yeah, people are bailing out of Twitter right and left. I think this is going to be a problem for science and science communication in general, as people find, it's kind of like the old web. People find their little silos. They're going to find their little forums, their blog places, and it's not going to be great for the dissemination of the widespread dissemination of scientific information. But yes.
Well, what we do will just be more important then.
And on that note, TWIS listeners will continue to find TWIS a consistent source of optimism and curiosity with their science news. We got you.
Heck yes.
Heck yes.
Guaranteed.
And those are our predictions. Thank you, everyone, I hope you enjoy our predictions and the conversation around them. Our Discord is there. They've decided Jackson Fly is the Commodore of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Yep.
I have no idea what that means.
Yep. Schnago
but I'm proud
to
to be elected that or whatever, nominated. Told that that's what I am. I love it.
That's where you are, Commodore. Everyone, thank you so much. This is This Week in Science. We have predicted 2023, and it's now time for us to dig into the science. 2022 is full of stories, and we cannot ignore those. So before we move on to that, I just want to remind you that you are the reason that we're able to do what we do, and we are listener funded. So Patreon is the way that you can really help us out. Head over to twis.org, click on the Patreon link, and choose your level of support, $10 and more a month, and we will thank you by name at the end of the show. And you'll also get to join our Discord, and I will make sure that I send Discord links to people who can't find them. I know that some people have had trouble finding things on Patreon, and I'm sorry about that. But yes, you can join our Discord. You get other goodies, and the Patreon is really the way that you can help us out. And we thank you for your support all the way through. We can't do this without you. And now, This Week in Science would like to bring you what we know and love as Blair's Animal Corner.
With Blair.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. If you want to hear about animals, she's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. There's Animal Corner.
What you got, Blair?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I have a couple animal stories I'm very excited to bring to you this week. The first is all about the microbiome inside a lemur gut. So we know that a microbiome is very important to our health and to the health of animals, and that it can be very specific based on where you live and what you eat and who your relatives are and who you hang out with. And so researchers from Duke wanted to look at the microbiome of a few different types of lemurs. This is specifically looking at 170 ring-tailed lemurs, so it was all the same species, but they wanted to look at different environments that they live in. They were all in Madagascar. Some were living in the wild. Some were kept as pets, and some were rescued from the pet and tourism industries and then relocated to a rescue center. So you kind of have the wild, you have the captive, and then you have this kind of intermediary. In the rescue center, it's important to note that they were fed a natural diet and had generally less exposure to people than they did if they were pets or if they were in the tourism industry. So they sequenced their DNA from the DNA, not the lemur DNA, the DNA from the poop, which had lemur DNA in it, but it also had the DNA from the microbiome, so they could figure out what the makeup was. And they found that the longer lemurs lived in the rescue center, the more similar their microbes were to those of the wild counterparts. Also, former pet lemurs with more time at the rescue center showed fewer signs of antibiotic resistance than those that were fresh into the rescue center from captivity. And so this is a direct relationship of kind of rewilding the gut. We think about rewilding land and rewilding spaces out in the world, but this is rewilding a gut. So when you take a lemur and you bring them into a home or into kind of a tourism situation, you might feed them bananas and all sorts of kind of monoculture foods, not to mention they can get sick and they can get diseases from us because they're closely related. And then if you bring them kind of back to this more natural environment, their microbiome starts to recover. So this is another thing kind of to keep in mind when we are moving animals from a rescue situation, wanting to transition them back into the wild. This is probably something, now we know, that should be monitored and looked at. So maybe emotionally and in other health parameters, they might be ready to be released. Maybe their microbiome's not ready. Maybe they need more time to rewild their microbiome.
Fascinating.
Also, this is why it's so important to feed animals what they eat in the wild if you are transitioning them to a life in the wild.
Yeah, not so much, I mean, behaviorally, I've only ever thought of it in terms of the animal needs to know what to eat in the wild. So they need to identify it, and they need to be able to go, oh, this is my food, and this is what I eat. But from what you're saying, it's much, much deeper than that, and it goes into the actual symbiosis of the microbiome and the organism.
Yeah, so much of it also, yeah, go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, it's just because so much of what we've been learning about the microbiome and that gut-brain connection is that it's telling you what to eat to some degree. It actually can change those behaviors that might make rewilding the entire animal much easier if that gut microbiome is already attuned to looking for that sort of the right nutrients.
Right, and what I was thinking about was if you go to a zoo or wildlife center, a lot of the time there are signs up that say, please don't feed the animals, they're on a special diet, da-da-da-da. So we think about the fact that, okay, animals were evolved to eat certain things. So you don't want to feed them things that are not what they would eat in the wild because they have this long evolutionary history of adapting to this particular diet. It's more than that. Their gut has evolved to this particular diet. And so it's not even just like, oh, well, they don't get peanuts in Madagascar. No. Their entire microbiome could collapse if they start eating things that are not native to where they're from. So really just an interesting kind of lift of the curtain of another piece of keeping wild animals wild and keeping them healthy when they can't be physically in the wild.
Yeah, there was a story we did about 4-ish years ago that had looked at the microbiome of pandas, a certain kind of a lemur, a red panda,
and a red panda. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think it might have also been like a termite. They looked at the guts and they found that the things that ate, they had the overlap of a small group of microbes that were able to, they think, digest bamboo very well. And so, you have these that becoming common throughout the evolution over millions and millions of years, that here's what you need to have maintained within your ecosystem to digest this particular food properly. And creatures disparate 50 million years, not related, across the globe, have maintained these proper microbes for digesting specific food. So it makes all sense in the world that they would need to do that. This should be part of that process of reintegration. Absolutely.
So I do have to correct you on one piece of that, Justin, though, and that is that the pandas had the wrong microbiome for the bamboo that they eat. And that's one of the things that I am constantly making fun of them for, is that they had the microbiome of a meat-eating animal.
Yeah, but they do actually, but they have an overlap with the other bamboo eaters. They do. They have microbes in there that are specifically shared by bamboo eaters around the world. Which is a very,
I'm going to have to look that story up again because I have been haranguing pandas for that for years.
Yeah, you might be.
You're maladapted.
I don't. So here could be the thing: their intestinal tract may be horribly maladapted and the wrong design altogether, but they might have actually picked up the right microbes to do some of that work.
All right, we're gonna have to look this up in the after show because we'll have to resolve this. Hopefully, I haven't been slandering pandas, but
I don't think you have.
If you have been, that would make you a panda slanderer, which I think is.
That's all right. I can live with that.
Okay.
Moving on, I want to tell you about bonobos and the latest use of iPads that they've made. This is new research from Leiden University at the University of Amsterdam. And they wanted to look at bonobos as one of our closest relatives to see if they have similar responses as us to emotion, pictures with emotion in faces. And so specifically, are you more attracted to the faces that are showing some sort of emotion versus neutral faces? And beyond that, do you care more about faces of people you recognize who have emotional kind of heightened state, or strangers who have an emotional state on their face? So human attention is more easily drawn to photos of people we know, family members, friends, that are expressing certain emotions. But in this study, bonobos were drawn to strangers. So this is a pretty big difference for such a close relative. And I have a few thoughts about this, but let me get through the actual study and the design of that study first. So she wanted to look at specifically the photos of conspecific. So if bonobos looked at bonobos and we looked at humans in different emotional expressions. So first she had to train the bonobos to use the iPad, as you always do. She went to a zoo focused mostly on primates, and she trained the bonobos to press a dot on a screen. After touching the dot, the two images would appear briefly. The images showed bonobos from the same group or stranger bonobos. Unfamiliar conspecifics is the scientific way of saying that. Some images were neutral. Some showed expressions of activity that were associated with emotions like fear, play, or sex. And then a dot would appear behind one of those two images, and they had to touch it as quickly as possible. So the question is, so you see these two photos, they disappear, and a dot pops up behind one of them. If you were looking at that already, you'd be able to notice it and touch it really quick. If you were looking at the other one, it would take you a second to shift your gaze and kind of rewrite your brain to touch that other dot. Even if you're really quick at it, you're going to be quicker at the one you were already looking at. So, and of course they got pieces of apple for doing it. So they were well rewarded. They were trained very quickly. And they were in fact faster at the dot that appears behind the photo that they were immediately looking at. Then they did a similar study with humans. And the guy's was, can you react faster than a bonobo? That's not really what they were studying. So they had the same task, photos of strangers or someone with whom they visited the zoo that day. So they took photos of people around the zoo on that day and showed the pictures of strangers or pictures of people they were with. And that was with faces neutral, happy, scared, angry, etc. And so the shorter reaction time was interpreted as the result of the photo that they were looking at in that moment, just like with the bonobos. Both humans and bonobos reacted quickly to photos of people in some sort of emotional state, more than the neutral photos, which was expected. But as I said, humans were focused on people they knew, and the attention of bonobos was focused on unfamiliar faces. So the suggestion here is that this is an evolutionary difference, which, isn't it always? So previous studies have shown that bonobos are xenophilic, which means they are more attracted to unfamiliar than familiar conspecifics. There's a new bonobo in town. Hey, who's that? Let me check them out.
Right.
But
whereas humans were tribal, and there's a
Yes.
whole idea of in-groups and out-groups,
Yes.
and bonobos don't
Yes.
have that so much.
Right. So
Yeah.
bonobos, they're not very violent. They are super friendly. There's enough food. They live in like prevalent areas. And so there's not a lot of competition. Also, they're a female-led society. So all these things together, there's benefits to interacting with new individuals. But with us, as you said, we're nomadic, we're tribal. We had to compete with other tribes for food. And so we're kind of focused on taking care of each other, because our evolutionary gain would be to make sure the ones around us are succeeding.
Right.
So the suggestion here is that this is just a basic difference in kind of survival strategies and the benefits or drawbacks of welcoming a stranger. So their next hope is to repeat the study with other great apes, but
Yeah, I was gonna say I would love to also have had a chimpanzees inside non-bonobos that are more aggressive towards outsiders and more, I guess, like you said, tribally oriented, to see how their reactions might differ.
And so I just have to address the fact. Someone in the chat room is asking, the picture that Kiki just shared, that was the main picture for this story. If you're listening to this later, you can look up the show notes and look at the kind of picture associated with this link. It is of one bonobo looking up another bonobo's nose. And Grouchy Gamer has asked, is this just grooming? Or is one really looking to pick the other's nose? That's also grooming. So yes.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes, all the way around.
Yes. But the thing about this story that caught my eye, ear, brain, whatever, is that there's a lot of animal perception studies that are done, animal cognition stories that are done, a lot of research that's done based on certain assumptions about preference. And I think we even just did one recently that was about, I think it was dogs. I was trying to find it. I couldn't find it. It's so hard. We do too many shows. It's hard to find all the stories. But we did a story about dogs where they talked about familiar versus unfamiliar faces and whether they could tell the difference at all and all this kind of stuff. And if you don't know what the species preference is, it's very hard to draw conclusions. So this is just, I think, a good reminder in general to, when we create a kind of methodology to study the way an animal thinks or the way an animal has preferences, whatever, you have to kind of study these baseline preferences first. Do you have an evolutionary difference that causes you to have a different preference? Because there was something, I'm trying to remember. Oh, yes. So dogs, they were saying that they were lingering longer on something that was new.
Yeah. Which is similar to toddlers.
Right. It is similar to toddlers. But do dogs have the same preference to linger on something new that toddler humans have? Or are they lingering because something's familiar? you don't know necessarily what the dog's preference for gaze is. You can make that assumption, but this is one of those moments where I just kind of want to remind us to challenge our assumptions about what an animal's preference might be, or what their reasoning for lingering, looking, inquiring, touching, all these things might be for an animal.
Yeah, I was part of a primate study at one point in time that was related to primates gazing at new faces, and they were looking to deter, the researcher I was doing an internship was looking to determine certain aspects of preference for new individuals and novelty and various things. So the eye gaze experiments were focused on, okay, where are the eyes going and what are they looking at? What features of the face are being looked at for the longest? How do the eyes move to look at the face? And the first session that I had with the researcher, she told me to consider what I thought would be what the monkeys would be looking at. And I answered with my human assumptions and human preferences. And she said, no, you need to stop and take a step back. Put yourself in the mind of that animal. And so, and that is a lesson that I've never forgotten. You have to put yourself in the mind of the animal, because as humans, we are a different animal.
Yes. Yes. And things that seem very obvious for us might not be an obvious preference or choice or benefit for another animal. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So bonobos interested in looking at strangers. So
more research.
That. Yeah.
But interesting. I mean, bonobos, they surprise us at every turn. They're so fascinating.
Yes. Yes. And then just real quick, I'll give you a 2-sentence version of a story that I came across that was very fun.
Oh, Band-Aids. Yes.
Yes. A product of freshwater single-celled green algae may enhance skin regeneration to speed up wound healing. It increased both collagen synthesis and the expression of proliferation-associated proteins, and a wound healing test also generated promising results. So, algae Band-Aids coming soon.
This I find very interesting because we've had honey. So we know that honey has antimicrobial aspects to it, because the honey is very important for keeping the bees healthy in the hive. And, anyway, why the algae? What is the algae doing?
I don't know, but I feel like there's native peoples that knew this centuries ago, and we're just figuring it out now. I'm sure,
but it'll never replace fresh maggots for cleaning a wound. I just want to go out there and say there's always better method. Yeah, it's
the leeches and the maggots.
They work.
Maggots. Yeah,
they work.
Yeah, as long as they're sterile. Oh my goodness. This is This Week in Science. Thank you all for joining us. If you are interested in getting one of our 2023 calendars, head over to TWIS.org. Unfortunately, Zazzle has taken our calendar off of our store for supposed copyright infringement, but I'm not really sure how that works, so we're looking into that. But if you want digital download PDF, it is available at TWIS.org. Make sure you go to the link below the picture of the calendar.
Somebody has the IP on calendars?
I don't know, man. We're trying to figure it out, but I have the IP to those Lego designs that I made.
Every image is yours. But it's a TWIS logo, and I
took the photos with my hands. I don't know.
We don't know what happened, but we still have our PDF that's available for download if you want to print your own high-quality calendar with amazing science holidays. That is available. All right, Justin, do you have some stories?
Yes, I do. So there's this is Native American history is just getting older and older every time we find new stuff. Oregon State University archaeologists have uncovered projectile points in Idaho that are thousands of years older than any previously found in the Americas. They found 13 full and fragmentary projectile points that are razor sharp still, ranging from about a half an inch to 2 inches long, and they're dated to 15,700-ish years ago via carbon-14 dating. That's 3,000 years older than the Clovis fluted points found in various places in North America, 2,300 years older than any previously found at the same site along the Salmon River in Idaho. So previously they had found fragmentary evidence of human occupation and they think like chips off of these points in that area, but now they've discovered and identified and dated some 13 full projectiles. So previously, Davis and other researchers, this is according to Lauren Davis, anthropology professor at Oregon State University, head of the group that found the points. It's one thing to say we think people were here in the Americas 16,000 years ago. It's another thing to measure it by finding well-made artifacts they left behind. Previously, Davis and other researchers working on the site found those simple flakes, but yes, now this has solidified that earlier finding. The Salmon River site, I think this is important to note, where they found this is on the Nez Perce land, which is known to be the tribe of the ancient village of Nepahe. I'm mispronouncing that probably. Land is currently held in public ownership by the Bureau of Land Management, which is important because had this been on private land, the artifacts legally could have been looted by whoever owned the land, and the knowledge gained by our careful excavation would have been lost. It would have just destroyed the site. So and then there's something interesting here that says the points are revelatory not just because of their age, but because of their similarity to projectile points found in Hokkaido, Japan, dating 16 to 20,000 years ago, according to Davis. The presence in Idaho adds more detail to the hypothesis that there are early genetic and cultural connections between the Ice Age peoples of Northeast Asia and North America. I find this very fascinating because this hypothesis of a connection between ancient Japanese peoples and Native Americans keeps coming up, and archaeologists looking at skull morphology and maybe similarity in artifacts, or this sort of thing. But genetic evidence that we have thus far has found no familial connection. So I'm wondering why this is even being mentioned. Like this was the main hypothesis researchers were trying to connect to when the ancient one, aka Kennewick Man, was discovered and illegally held and tested. They were certain that they were going to find a link to an ancient Japanese people. The genetic evidence they ended up getting showed that there was no relevant close genetic connection. So the branches are not the related community. It's not a derivative of or a same group splitting off over any short period of time. Yet here it is again. So I'm like, why is this idea still, and even mentioning the genetic and cultural connections when...
And why can't we consider convergent evolution? Like, we consider convergent evolution for all sorts of physical traits. Why not a convergent cultural trait as well, in which there is a particular way...
For technology, especially.
For technology, for flint napping, or for the cutting of the stones, and
we know stone technology is millions of years old. You know, the two groups that were both using it for fishing and, along a river or a coastal area, you could imagine that they would be using similar techniques. And they're like, but the fact that they keep, and I only hear about this in archaeologists working in the Pacific Northwest. They're the ones who are always trying to make this connection. And every time we have the hard genetic evidence that would soundly confirm their hypothesis, it's completely debunked again and again. So I don't know why it's mentioned.
They really, really, really want to support the idea of the land bridge and the Asia, lots of people coming over from Asia. And so, of course, you're going to have, but Japanese origination would have meant it would have come from across the continent, to Idaho, which is even more different. I don't know.
Anyway.
So, yeah.
But 3,000 years older. Points than Clovis have now been discovered in the Americas. You combine that with the much, much older findings in New Mexico of human activity, and that many of the hypotheses of the peoplings of the Americas are continuing to be upended as we get more and better information. My next story is a paper out of the Journal of Comparative Neurology, suggesting that T-Rex may have had the intelligence similar to that of a modern baboon. So here we go. Animals smarter than we thought. You can add T-Rex and a host of other dinosaurs, apparently, to that mix. This is neuroscientist Susanna Herculano-Hausel, Vanderbilt University. She conducted a research that found evidence of some dinosaurs having neuron density in their brains equal to that of some modern primates. Reasonable to assume that dinosaurs in general had different levels of intelligence, but considering how intelligent they could be, it's kind of a problem because we don't have any activities to watch, no brains to study. So Herculano-Hausel began her study by noting that birds, which evolved from dinosaurs, can be quite intelligent, making up for their tiny brain sizes by having tiny, densely packed neuron clusters. This observation made her wonder if perhaps dinosaurs were smarter than had been assumed. So she began applying...
Smarter than your average bird.
Phylogenetic bracketing, where elements of the evolutionary tree are used to look for shared traits in different creatures. Which, this derived from that, and so if we assume that it had similar brain structures going back, problem is if you keep using that all the way back, I think then the first fish to crawl out of the ocean would have had a densely packed neural clustering, because you keep this same bracket all the way back. But this is kind of interesting. If you took the size of brains of a T-Rex and you used the clustering of a tiny-brained bird, like an ostrich in this case, I think is what they were looking at, you see that there's enough of that neural connection, there's neural density there that would make it similar to that in the numbers of modern primates. Says Herculano-Hausel knows that dinosaurs like T-Rex are believed to have been relatively long-lived. Many might have lived to be 40 or more years old. If they were smart, they might have had time to develop problem-solving skills or even use of tools. Although in T-Rex's case, we probably would have ruled out hand tools.
But T-Rex's relatives, the other theropods, there were some scary ones. Raptors, others that hunted in packs who, yes, this is fascinating. I believe that vultures, who are also scavengers, are very intelligent. And
that's what I was going to bring up for sure. Yeah, you got to be kind of smart to be a scavenger.
Yeah.
Every day is different.
And not get killed.
So the idea of the big dumb lizard may be wrong, but then I think, Jurassic Park then kind of got ahead of it, right? Because it showed at least the predators, the ones that were, sort of like looking at nature and seeing how predatory animals or small pack animals might operate.
But if you don't
move,
sort
of intelligence.
Then the T-Rex can't see.
They can't tell.
Right? So, But so, Justin, I have a clarifying question. Are they trying to say that ostriches are smart? Because I disagree. Okay.
So yes.
No.
If you took the neural density of an ostrich brain, which is very small, and grew it up to the size of a T-Rex brain and kept the amount of neural density, then you would have a more intelligent creature capacity.
Ostriches are some of the dumbest birds I've ever met.
They really are.
So in this case, size doesn't really matter. Because
I think we should take
I don't know the size of the brain of an...
So usually body mass, there is a regular relationship between body mass and brain size. Bigger body mass equals bigger brain size. Need more neurons to control the body, whatever. But what we need to look at is neuronal density of something like a corvid or,
Right.
So crows, parrots, birds that are known to be really smart, not just the ostrich, which is pretty commonly known to not be. So, so the question is, you go up from the ostrich, just based on body size to brain size, you're going to have an ostrich intelligence T-Rex. Not so smart. But if you have increased neuronal density, which you can't actually tell.
No.
This is all based on assumptions because it's soft tissue. There's absolutely no way to know.
No hard evidence.
No hard evidence. Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions still here.
I think the reason for using something like an ostrich or an emu is because they're a more direct descendant than maybe a corvid. A
corvid. Maybe they should have. What's the one that's really scary?
The cassowary?
Cassowary. That's the one.
I'm not going to say they're particularly smart either. Is the problem? See, this is the problem with ratites in general. They don't really have a lot of predators, so they can be dumb. Which is the other thing that I would kind of counter here is the T-Rex don't got to worry about nobody. So there's an opportunity for the T-Rex to actually be really dumb because it's not really being hunted.
Yeah, but then again, if you're a scavenger who's constantly with size that constantly needs to be
There's a push-pull. I get it, for sure. And I can buy that it has better intelligence than we originally thought, except for this hinging on the ostrich thing. If they're really just saying, because if they're saying
the ostrich,
the neuronal density of birds, crows, ostriches, they're all the same. Then neuronal density doesn't mean anything to me anymore because ostriches are dumb. They will eat rocks.
Lots of birds eat rocks. They need them in their crop to help them digest food. It's part of a whole
let
thing.
Me tell you,
but I mean,
as a zookeeper,
I get
the
it.
thing that I loved about ostriches that also shows how dumb they are is we would get these pill pockets. So they looked like pills, like giant novelty pills, like the ones that are pill cases that look like a giant pill. We basically would get that, and it was made out of gelatin, right? So it was supposed to be able to dissolve in stomach acid. You could put like 10 different pills in this thing and close it, just toss it on the ground, and they'd be like, "Oh, what's that?" And they'd eat it. It wasn't covered in food. It wasn't like disguised underneath some hay. No, you just throw it on the ground. They're like, "Oh, what's that? I'll eat it."
That's not well adapted for survival, but obviously they're doing just fine. Oh.
Yeah, because they're big and scary.
Well, maybe they knew. It's like, okay, that's the medication I need. Oh,
they did not know that. They did not know that. Sorry, Justin.
You don't know the insight. Okay, so I got to add a prediction. 2023 is the year we find out ostriches are way smarter than we ever thought. If Blair brings a story showing ostrich intelligence.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure,
I have to go back.
Not.
I have to go back on everything I said about ostriches, just like I had to about the panda digestive system. We'll have to.
Tell us about AI.
Last story. This one snuck in right at the end. This is Microsoft has something called Val-E, which is an AI system capable of mimicking a person's voice. After training with a recording of that voice for just 3 seconds.
3 seconds? Is this Valley as in Uncanny Valley? Is that why they named it that?
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh my
VALL-E.
God.
Yeah.
3 seconds.
So apparently they had initially been developing this as something that would help with voice over data calling stuff and improve quality of phone conversations. So subsequent work showed that it is capable of much more than they had originally. Not only can it mimic a voice, it can also simulate tone, even the acoustics of the environment in which the original recording was made. So, yeah. This is It takes 3 seconds. They say, of course, the app was trained over many, tens of thousands of hours of recordings by 7,000 English-speaking people. It says it has trouble currently with some accents and other voices, but the app is very much in early stages, and that functionality is likely to improve. And so here's then the best case scenarios for this. One is you end up with a real-time call autocorrect, voice autocorrect. So you say something untoward, oh gosh, my boss is a real, and then it catches it, fixes it, and then you say, my boss is a real casserole. Oh, interesting. That's an interesting thing to say about somebody, that they remind you of a casserole. And then the other is, of course, pairing this with the deep fake technology could be pretty insane. But highest and best use that you're likely to see, I don't know if it's a best use, like it's a good idea or a bad idea. I don't want to. But because very often recording companies, when you sign these contracts for your songs and your albums and stuff, they kind of own a piece of you, your image, your sound, your everything for a very long time. This could actually end up being used to produce singing from artists who are no longer alive.
Yeah, so this is a big thing because they've already got this going on with video of artists in
bringing
Vegas.
Back actors to do things when they
there are performances in Vegas that you can go to now that are deep fakes of dead artists that they use their actual singing and voices. But could you imagine if now you can?
Wait, are you talking about lip syncing?
No, but to video that's been faked. It's like it's a live performance, except it's not, and it's video. It's weird. But this is definitely this place where suddenly, like you're saying, your voice is not your own anymore. It can be licensed by a recording company, and if they can take the sound of you, suddenly you're singing songs you never recorded. Yeah. Suddenly, we're talking on a podcast we never podcasted.
Well, the first thing I thought of, the nefarious use, of course, I'm immediately like, oh my God, how are scammers going to use this? Is, hey, sweetie, I'm in jail. I need bail. Can you send me XY? All of you don't have to be a Nigerian prince anymore. You can be somebody's mom calling them oh my God, I'm in trouble. I lost my wallet and I'm out of gas and you need to send me money. This could happen so fast. This is kind of scary.
Yeah.
It's actually very frightening. Yeah. The sort of final note here too is Microsoft has not made the source code for Valley public, and it likely will not do so, noting that it could be used in less than responsible ways.
Thanks, Microsoft.
Yeah, but it says that,
it really makes me feel good that Microsoft has this technology. Really.
Well, so I'm not worried that Microsoft has this technology, because apparently, according to what I just read, makes me think on some level they've realized this is terrible implications, and as a company with a lot of business interests, maybe aren't going to go forward putting this out there for people to just play with. However,
but now they've planted the seed, so someone else can make it.
Well, it just means that it's so possible that we're whenever Microsoft comes up with something, it's only a short period of time before there's multiple derivations being created out there in the public. So
well, we already have people who copy other people who are impersonators, and we know that there are legal cases related to individuals who have impersonated celebrities' voices for radio ads, for television ads, kind of with the never saying that I'm this person, but the sound of the voice makes it seem to consumers as though the celebrity is suggesting that you buy X product X or whatever. So suddenly you have AI that can do this.
Just do it.
They just do it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is the death of Cameo. That's what this is.
Oh, maybe.
Wait,
leave a
the
message.
band from the 80s?
No, the service that you can pay like a certain number of dollars to have somebody call and give a birthday message to somebody you like or whatever.
So, but here's then okay. So let's look for the silver lining. The silver lining of this is that you can now give your own eulogy. You take the written thing that you want to say to all your friends and family who've gathered around on this very sad day, and it's done in your voice, maybe with a deep fake.
Record it before you die.
Oh yeah, we can always do that.
Sorry, just to put it out there.
That's okay. So that's not a highest and best use. Okay, highest and best use then is, I think, the one where you'd be like, oh gosh, I wish the Doors had played for another 10 years, or I wish I could hear the.
What would Jim Morrison be singing now?
I want, or you just take your own voice.
What would the dude from InXS be doing?
Well, you take your own voice and be like, oh, I wish I could sing. Oh, I can now.
Oh, you know what? Oh, I have an idea. You change your Siri or your Alexa or whatever to be your own voice. So you're just talking to yourself.
I talk to myself just fine without my computer being involved in it. Ask any of my friends. Okay. All right, AI. All right. Here we go, everybody. It's coming. But there's fun stuff out there. I know there's fun stuff out there. Like the poorly named James Webb Space Telescope, which is finding all sorts of really cool things right now. So this week, researchers reporting at the American Astronomical Society in Seattle, Washington, were talking about distant galaxies that the James Webb Space Telescope has been looking at, and it's looking so far back. It's looking even further back than Hubble has been able to look. So they are reporting, as part of the Cosmic Evolution Early Release Science Collaboration, galaxies from when the universe was between 500 million to 2 billion years old. And these galaxies are really nice galaxies that shouldn't be really nice galaxies. So what we've seen from Hubble is that there's a period of time where there weren't a lot of galaxies, and suddenly they started coalescing into galaxies, and we have those early aggregations. But suddenly, because we're able to get past the dust and see the heat signature of things forming, the researchers are determining that galaxies were actually getting their start a lot earlier than we thought. And so, once again, James Webb is starting to give us a little hint of maybe we don't think we know all the things that we thought we knew. The wavelengths let it see further back in time, and the data has allowed them to look at 850 early galaxies. They've tagged them as disk, spheroid, or irregularly shaped. And these galaxies that were so early in the evolution of our universe have a lot of features that are really similar to our own more modern galaxies. And so these galaxies appear to date between 200 million and 400 million years after the Big Bang. And this is corresponding to what they call a redshift of as much as 20. So this is how much the light is shifted. And so there's a lot more data that needs to be investigated because of dark matter halos and different lensing effects that may have changed the way that we're seeing things. But there's a lot for people to think about when it comes to the galaxies that are out there and how long ago they started forming. So really, if they started forming that early in the universe, what does this mean for life, for all sorts of aspects of what we think we have understood everything and how it works? And then in another line of what the heck is Webb doing, researchers have reported this week on what they are saying is the first visualization of an Earth-size planet, courtesy of James Webb. Rocky exoplanet LHS 475b. It has a transmission spectrum of a bunch of methane, carbon dioxide, and it is almost the same mass as Earth. However,
there's always a however. However, it's within the corona of its sun, or however it's fleeing helplessly through cold, frozen space. Which one is it?
Right. So this planet, they have no question that the planet's there, according to the researchers, Jacob Lustig-Jaeger from Johns Hopkins University's Applied Physics Laboratory. They say that the fact it's a small rocky planet is very important, and it's Earth-sized, which is very interesting. However, it's really hot. So it's not really a planet that you would expect life on because it's
First one, Justin. First one.
Yeah. We need to find that planet where global warming hasn't already happened.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is relatively close, 41 light years away, the constellation Octans, and it orbits a red dwarf star, and it is extremely close to its star, orbiting in not 1, but 2 Earth days.
Oof.
Yeah, so
Cooking.
Like, it's like 300, the surface temperature, it's like 300 degrees all the time. It's very, very hot.
Maybe life on that planet likes it hot.
Maybe it likes it. Some like it hot. You never know.
Maybe there's just
nobody
a bunch of
likes it
bacteria. Heat-resistant bacteria do.
300 degrees?
Yeah, why the heck not?
Stop it. Too hot.
Why not?
Too hot. You can have too hot.
We keep imposing our Earth standards on life expectations. You can't. Come on.
There's limits of chemistry, physics that happen at 300 degrees.
Yeah, there
you.
are some limit. Yeah, it depends how much. What's the pH? What other things are going on there? How do we? Yeah. We can.
There's only limits because we haven't seen it.
The planet can be closer to its star because the red dwarf is not as bright as our sun, so it's a cooler star. But at the same time, it's very close to its star. It's cute. But anyway, they think it's a lot like Venus, that it has a kind of a thick carbony, methane-y kind of atmosphere, shrouded in thick clouds, very hot. So already greenhouse kind of conditions going on there. But James Webb, looking at exoplanets. Very exciting.
Which for some reason is not the thing that I thought it was going to be doing, and it's been doing a tremendous job of this so far already.
Tremendous. Looking at away from space and back to humans, and we all wish we had better memory. We could remember things like, oh, college students out there, I'm studying for a test and I didn't sleep enough. And all of a sudden, I'm at the test and I know this thing. It's on the tip of my tongue or at the tip of my pencil and I can't recall it. Oh my gosh, why can't I recall it? And then 2 days later, you go, mitochondria, and you know the answer.
The powerhouse of the cell.
Right, you didn't know the answer while you were taking the test, however. So researchers publishing in the journal Current Biology have been trying to figure out how to access hidden knowledge. So stuff we know, but that you can't access immediately. Yeah. This research could also have influence into dementia and Alzheimer's and other diseases that affect the accessing of memories. Anyway, the researchers were trying to figure out what could we do to reactivate memories. And they were inspired by their students who don't sleep enough before they take their tests. And so they had mice. They deprived them of sleep. They used optogenetics to trigger a channel rhodopsin, which is a light-sensitive protein that's selectively in neurons in the hippocampus, and it's activated during a learning experience where the mice are learning a location. Hippocampus is involved in learning locations. It's also involved in the storage of memories. So if your memories aren't stored in the hippocampus, but the hippocampus is involved in all that. So they're like, okay, we'll focus on the hippocampus. When they sleep deprived these mice, the mice were really bad at remembering the stuff they'd been learning while they were sleep deprived. They used the optogenetics to turn on some stuff in the neurons in the hippocampus. And suddenly these sleep deprived mice were doing a better job at remembering. And so then they're like, what can we do molecularly that isn't optogenetics? Because with people, we can't just stick a light in your head and make you remember stuff. That's not going to work all the time. So they used a drug that is used commonly by patients with asthma or cardiopulmonary disease, COPD, and the drug is called roflumilast. I cannot say this. I've tried it over and over again. Roflumilast.
Oh, I think you did fantastic, not knowing the right pronunciation.
I'm working on it. Blah, 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 blah. Roflumilast, approved for use in humans, used for asthma, used for COPD, and when it was given to sleep-deprived mice, it had a basically the same effect as the optogenetics in activating cells in the hippocampus, and the mice were able to remember things better. So, these hidden memories...
Give me. I'll take it.
Right.
Let me try it. Test it on human. Test it on this human.
Right. So now I want to know, okay, everybody who's taking this drug, do you already have, do you remember things that you didn't think you should remember when you're sleep deprived and other stuff is going on? What's happening there? But the interesting thing here is, could we potentially take roflumilast, which is already approved for use in humans, and could it help people with age-induced memory problems? Could it help people with early-stage Alzheimer's, dementia? Could this help memories be retrievable in organisms other than mice? And that's the big question. So can we get these hidden memories to be accessible again? And do we already have the drugs to do it?
Go for it. Let's try it. Let's see. Human experimentation. Memory is one of those things that is really important to thinking about things and remembering things that you have read or experienced or learned.
Yeah. How does roflumilast work in mice? Will it work the same in people in this particular situation? How does it potentially open up these memories to become accessible again? What is it doing? That's a big question before we move on to human trials. But my last story for the night with relation to animal and human trials is a story which is going to affect medicine. Human medicine moving forward, which is a change in congressional legislation signed into, it's signed by President Joe Biden as of late December 2022, and it is going to reduce the use of animal research in drug testing. So historically, animals have needed to be tested before drugs or treatments of any kind have been tested in humans. So this particular trial looking at roflumilast and mice and how it affects their memory. Yes, we want to look at mechanisms and all the things. Do they necessarily have to do it in mice? This is the question. Now, according to this work, which animal welfare organizations are very excited about because it is going to lead to a reduction in the number of animals that are used in research. It is replacing a 1938 stipulation that the FDA require animal testing for larger molecules on animals before human trials. But now, can we use things like labs on a chip Do we have the technology now that will enable us with brain organoids, with other tissue organoids, to simulate what happens in tissues of the body before we give it to people? Now, legally, the FDA no longer has to require toxicity tests in monkeys and rodents. Now, the FDA no longer has to require a lot of these animal tests before human testing. I think this is a very great step, but I'm wondering if it is early?
Yeah,
if our
this seems very
technology is actually
premature.
is our technology actually there?
An LD50 is pretty important for a lot of things.
What's going to kill you? What's going to kill an animal, right? Any animal.
Yeah.
We're not doing that on humans. We're not figuring out how much it takes for 50% of humans to die.
Yeah.
So I think we've skipped a major step here. I think the first thing you would want to do is create a central database where all animal experimentation is shared.
Shared and reported, right.
Shared and reported so that people can compare and contrast. Hey, look, here's the study has been done with this drug, with this compound, with this scenario 50 times before. We need not do it again. Sure, you can reduce if you have a similar enough trial that has taken place. You can reduce the amount of testing. However, what you're saying then essentially is the experimentation, anything that has failed to make it past animal testing in the past, will now happen in humans.
Exactly.
And
right.
and here's the other thing for the animal.
What are the thresholds? What are the standpoints that we're going to be looking for?
Mm-hmm.
For the animal lovers out there who think I'm just being cold and callous and not caring about these animals, let me give you an example of how this could also play out. The animal food industry no longer needs to test anything they put in your animal's food on animals. They can just put it in. Are you still comfortable with that? Are you still comfortable knowing that they can put in any food additive that they desire into your dog food, cat food, fish food, bird food, whatever, and they don't have to have tested it, and it's not going to be regulated? Does that sound like a good move going forward?
Yeah. So there has been a request for $5 million for this year to launch a program within the FDA to develop methods to replace, reduce, and refine animal testing. But at this point, the legislation, according
$5 million.
to science...
So not serious about it.
Not serious, right? $5 million.
just want to point out, $5 million. So not serious about outcomes on this one.
Not really going to be testing it. Yeah, it doesn't require that the FDA continue to ask for animal testing. The legislation allows the agency to clear a drug for human trial without animal testing. And it opens a way for the FDA to work with companies for alternatives. So if a company does have alternatives, that can happen. But I just want to remind everybody that just last year we had the approval of an Alzheimer's drug that causes brain bleeds and has actually not had the data that it should have had. It was approved by the FDA without appropriate data, and it not with the evidence of the proof behind it of actually helping people's lives. So there's a lot going on here. But I think this is something that's going to be very interesting because there's always been a balance kind of in place between and animal rights, animal welfare people, scientists, and the work that they do in the endeavor to keep people healthy, to do work that will eventually have positive impacts on people's health.
Yeah. If there's a new treatment for your pet that has not been tested on animals, right? Well, what are the possible side effects? We don't know. We didn't look into it. We don't care. We don't have to do that anymore. It's nonsense. This is a real world that we live in, people.
It's really scary when you think about requesting test subjects for human trials and now saying, like, we haven't done it in anything alive yet. You're the first.
No, we did have a computer simulation that said everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Or like this last week where a mental health company online said that they used AI without consumer consent to use AI in the mental health app that people were using. Of course, it had human oversight, so everything's fine, but they never asked for consent. There's a lot. There's a big place. The FDA is in place to help American business thrive and also to protect people. But one of its main roles is to promote business and the economy. This is also what's happening in some of these new venture capital-backed startups and some of the questionable practices that are taking place, where we have gone through this historically already, and we have human research rights committees, and we have all sorts of protocols in place for a reason.
I guess I gotta withdraw my prediction about curing cancer again this year because if mice aren't involved, it's not gonna happen.
Maybe in spiders.
It's just, think about the spaghetti that is thrown at the wall, and I am sorry to be using this kind of terminology, but like, you can try things on mice at a very different level of proof and kind of just in a you can try things on mice that you can't try on humans. Is basically my point. That can give birth to entire fields of research.
Yeah. And as somebody who has worked in animal research in the past, it is a goal to get away from animal research, and the technology to allow us to do that with the organoids, with labs on a chip, with all of these things. These are steps in the right direction. And I think the cart before the horse is a problem, though. So I hope that this isn't too much too soon. But we shall see. And I place no judgment until I see where this goes. But I just wanted to report on it and say, hey, look at that.
This is a big yikes for me. Officially, I'm going to say yikes.
Yeah, how will it affect medicine moving forward and the treatments that we receive? And
this
also
stinks.
trust in public health, which is a big one as well.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Trust is a big issue. We got to make sure that we still work on that, everybody. Oh my gosh, I hope you trust us, though. We made it through a whole episode.
Did we?
Did you?
Oh my goodness.
Did you? Are you here with us?
Future.
Did we do it? We're in the future now. We talked about
Oh gosh, you know what that means? People in the past who were predicting the future are watching us now.
Ooh. Watching us.
This is what they're seeing when they look into the future, those people of the past.
Or when they're in the future and they look in the past. Oh my goodness, it's all very confusing. But I think we've done it. We've made it to the end of our show. And I do want to say thank you to several people who are just absolutely essential in making this show happen. Fada, thank you so much for the show notes and social media that you work so hard to make happen every single week. Identity 4, thank you for recording the show. Gord, Aaron, Lore, others, thank you so much for being in the chat rooms and making them great places to be. And Rachel, thank you for your work in editing the show and getting rid of our blurps and bleeps and blurbs and things.
Blurps and bleeps and blurbs.
Yes, and I really also want to thank our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Teresa Smith, James Schaefer, Richard Badge, Kent Northcote, Rick Loveman, Pierre Velazar, John Ratnaswamy, Carl Kornfeld, Karen Tozzi, Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vigard Chefstag, Hal Snyder, Donathan Styles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, Ali Coffin, Gaurav Sharma, Reagan, Derek Schmidt, Don Mundis, Stephen Alberon, Dale Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fredis104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, David E. Youngblood, Sean Clarence Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Dana Pearson, Richard, Brendan Minish, Johnny Gridley, Remy Day, Flying Out, Christopher Dreyer, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul, Rick Ramus, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Chris Craig Landon, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Adam Mishkan, Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, I can read, really, Marjorie, Paul D. Disney, David Simmerly, Patrick Pecoraro, Tony Steele, and Jason Roberts. Thank you all for your support on Patreon. And if you are interested in supporting us on Patreon and having your name read at the end of the show, head over to twist.org and click on the Patreon link. On next week's show,
we will be back broadcasting live from our Facebook and YouTube channels,
and
as
Twitch.
well as from twist.org/live, and something called a Twitch. We are also on something called a Twitch for the tech-savvy podcaster.
Want to listen to us as a podcast? Perhaps while you mumble and trail off into the distance. Just search for This Week in Science or podcast are found. If you enjoyed the show, get your friends to subscribe as well.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website, www.twist.org, and you can also sign up for our newsletter.
You can also contact us directly. Email Kirsten at kirsten@thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or me, Blair, at blairbaz@twist.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered to an exoplanet, but it's only 300 degrees there, so it's probably fine.
You can also hit us up on the Twitter. Are we still there? Where we are at Twist Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Players Menagerie. We love your feedback. If you would like us to cover a particular topic or subject, suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes to you in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here again next week, and we hope you join us for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science. This Week